Hey guys, David Vose reporting for duty. Well, I've been working all day, so it's getting late. But I wanted to turn this thing on and talk a little bit at you. I got a couple of thoughts that I wanted to run by you. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It was a beautiful day here. It's warm and got a lot done. Started working on putting my solar panels in and getting that set up. So maybe take me a couple, 2 or 3 days to get that set up, and I'll have power at the trailer. But all day I've been hearing about this solar flares, and the aurora borealis that everybody's going to be witnessing. They say they'll be able to see aurora borealis in California, Northern California, and as far south as Alabama is something I heard. And I thought, well, that's happened a lot of times. People don't know about it. We never used to talk about those things. I remember when I was younger driving through Nebraska seeing the northern lights. I remember seeing them in Idaho where I was. Of course, that's a little further north. But it was common to see them all the way down. And I remember not very long ago we were seeing them in the panhandle of Texas and places. But it's not an extraordinary thing to see the northern lights. And it makes me think of the eclipse that we just went through without any ill event taking place. Nothing happened, but everybody went out to see this thing. And they had the National Guard deployed and, all the stuff that we heard. And then I never heard a darn word afterwards about why they had the National Guard. Did they ever need them? Did anybody ever say, did we get attacked? Do we need biological suits and scientists on the scene? No, we didn't. It was a hoax. It was a hoax perpetrated by Huckabee. Yeah, remember old Huckabee? Now her daughter's running the state. And the governor of Texas, oh man, he's for us, right? Him and Trump are together, and Florida and all these states made these states of emergency, and it was a hoax. You say, well, they didn't know. They were just being cautious, Dave. No, it was a hoax, and they know. Or at least somebody knew. Somebody who told Miss Huckabee, I can't remember her name, that she should have National Guard deployed. She should fire them. You say, but I've forgotten all about that, Dave, until you just brought it up. Right? It was a big thing until April the 8th went, and it was gone, and now nobody cares. Well, I got to thinking, remember Y2K, or was that what you call it, Y2K2 or something? It was when the year 2000 came, and I remember that whole year they were talking about how the grid was going to go down. The end of the world was going to happen because in your computer, there's no way for it to know what year it is if it goes to 2001, because supposedly all the computers only went to 2000 or something, some crazy hoax that we were told. That never happened. And it was all they talked about until it happened, and then nobody even mentioned it. Nobody cares that it was all a big hoax. Probably spent billions of dollars worldwide preparing, and people all frightened out of their minds, and it never happened. And then there was the 2012, the Mayan calendar says it was going to be the end of the world, and everybody was talking about that, and that's come and gone, and it was a hoax. And you say, yeah, but not everything's a hoax, Dave. What about Pearl Harbor and 9/11, Dave? Those were real, right? No, they were hoaxes, and everybody's kind of figured that out now. Even the moon landing was a hoax. Is anything that we hear legitimate? I want to ask you something. Why is Tucker Carlson, whose father was CIA, in charge of PBS and propaganda to the world, Why did Fox News have Tucker on hold to become their anchor, waiting in line until they got rid of O'Reilly? Remember, he got fired. And then, boom, Tucker Carlson, waiting in the wings, comes along. They paid him for years. Tucker used to be over at CNN or something, or NBC, or I don't remember. He was over at different places. He's a mainstream anchor. Why? Couldn't they use Bildad the Shuhite, right, from the days of Job? Or, could they use Little Miss Susie? I mean, why? What did it have to be Tucker? Because Tucker's CIA. And he was being paid, and he was waiting, and everybody knew he was going to take over as soon as he got a position that opened up. So they filed Bill O'Reilly and put him in there. And then all of a sudden, as though it was all orchestrated, bam, he gets fired. And now Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is like just so angry. Oh, how dare they? Oh, we're just so tired of all this Me Too thing, And he's fighting for the little guy and all of this. And meanwhile, there's no more gas engines. There's no way we can even get from point A to point B if something happens now. Because if the grid goes down, we don't have any cars. And they're phasing these gas engines out. I mean, it wasn't that many years ago we had gas engines, and then they stopped making them recently. I think maybe there's a car company somewhere that makes a gas engine, but I haven't heard. I remember 2-3 years ago they were saying that you couldn't buy a gas engine at Ford, Chevy, Volvo, or any of these places anymore. They were all electric. And of course, Elon Musk just happened to be making electric cars and became the richest man in the world. And SpaceX, and, the Neuralink, and he's making tunnels for the rich, but we don't talk about that, like underground bunkers, and we don't talk about that. But Tucker Carlson now comes out and says, I looked for it for like 2 hours and I can't find it. But it comes up in my feed every 5 minutes. When I turn a video on or anything, it's the first commercial that comes up. It did for about 3 weeks. It was nothing but Tucker Carlson and this commercial, and it would say, what's going to happen when they pull the plug? They can just pull the plug. And I'm like, pull the plug? He says, and it's going to be a disaster that you won't believe, and the world's not prepared for it, and they're not preparing people. And all they got to do is pull the plug. I don't know if you've seen that commercial. Or, yeah, it's on a commercial, but it was him saying it. And I looked for it, and I can't find it in the archives. But I'm sure it's out there. I just haven't found it yet. But I wanted to show you a clip of that. I'm sure you've seen it. But why is Tucker Carlson, just like this disclosure thing was going around, right? Everybody thinks, oh, the aliens are real and the government's admitting it now. And there was this switch after the COVID, and you weren't allowed to say that. Now you can say anything you want about it. They don't care what you say now. Except for little old Davey, Vose. They won't let me have any monetization on my channel. I even applied for it again. They said, no, thank you. Unless you're willing to get rid of your videos. They want me to delete some videos. And I won't do it. So I guess I'm not going to have any monetization at all. And it's been several months. And, I'm just to the point where it's like, it's so crazy because it used to be they just threw you away and took the key and threw it in the abyss and you were done, right? And at least you didn't know if you were done or not. You saw other people. I saw many people like Alex Jones. He was just banned and was gone, right? And then they took me down. It was like 7 months and they wouldn't tell me what was going on. I thought I was gone. And then all of a sudden they go, yeah, now we'll let you back. I guess it was only a 6-month thing. And that happened to me 3 times. And then it happened for several times. It was just a week or two. And one time it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. I don't remember. But this last time they just took my monetization away and they won't give it back. But, okay. So back to what Tucker Carlson was saying. He's preparing us. Right? They're preparing us for aliens. They've been doing that for a while now. Of course, Roswell and all that, and the moon landing and all these hoaxes. But now they're saying officially, basically through certain channels, government people that were actually talking to Congress, and so they must be important and they must know what they're talking about because they're briefing Congress on this, that there is UFOs. And lately, it's been nothing but they're going to pull the plug. Why is Tucker warning us? He said it could happen any minute. Well, he might be fear-mongering, or maybe it's clickbait, but if it is, since he works for the CIA, I think they must have a plan here. I also know in the last, I don't know how many weeks, months, I've been hearing it over and over again about this EMT that's going to happen, that they claim could happen, that Russia could do it, or China could do it, or both, or something. Of course, I think it's probably Biden going to do it, right? He'd probably be the one planning it. Him and Putin are in a secret room somewhere in the basement, in a bunker or whatever, they're planning this. But they're saying that Russia can shoot off a tactical nuclear weapon. I'm using big words. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know if they're tactical or what. But anyway, some kind of nuclear weapon up in the atmosphere. Just go, and doesn't destroy anybody on Earth. Doesn't hurt us, right? This radiation, I guess, can't go magically. It can't go down. It can only go up or something, And so it won't bother us. It won't hurt our air or anything, But these darn solar flares will wipe us out, But yeah, a nuclear weapon maybe exploded over the America will wipe out the grid. And they're planning on doing it at some point if we don't be careful. So we have to be in fear of Russia or China doing this any minute. Meanwhile, they've taken over all of South America and Mexico and Cuba. What used to be Cuba, right? The communists had. Now they've got everything. Venezuela all the way down to Argentina. And supposedly the only pro-American state is Brazil now. And we don't even talk about that. We don't even talk about the fact that the government's arming the cartel. And they've now given them ships off the coast of California. And there was some Navy SEAL was talking about that, saying that they're prepared to literally, when the Civil War happens, they literally don't just have guns now and automatic weapons, but they've got like tactical weapons and ships and tanks and everything. They're just like we're arming people in the Ukraine to fight a proxy war against Russia. And so I guess China decides instead of taking Taiwan, they'll just take South America, which is better, right? You can have Taiwan, but look, nobody cares. These guys at the top are just playing games and they're psyching us out and they're just scaring us. Anything they told you that might just happen is a hoax. And what's actually happening, they don't talk about. So they've been telling us that Russia or China is going to blow a nuclear weapon off and there's going to be an EMT. We don't know what that means, but it means that, what they say basically is that somehow or another all the grid's going to go down. And they've been telling us that for a long time. But then at the same time, they're saying, well, the sun's just getting really cranky lately, right? And it's been blowing off all these, and they use these big words like a G5 or what is it, an X5 or something. It's like storms, they rate them. Oh, it's a F4, whoo-hoo, boy, if it ever gets to an F5, we're all done, right? And then you see an F5 and we find out last week that they're causing that too. They got a station down in the Antarctic, and you can see little blobs coming from there where they're actually using radar and sonar and cloud seeding and radiation ray guns or whatever they're doing, heating up the atmosphere or something, creating these red spots that are moving like big blobs. And we watched the blob go over and hit Africa and right through somebody told me that's not the Horn. That's, I stand corrected. The Horn's on the other side of Africa. But that big bump, right? The camel's hump there in Africa on the west coast. And it went right through the Sahara, warmed up the sand. That's probably what they were trying to do, is warm up the sand because of this big heat wave. And when that Sahara gets warmed, the sand's like a big battery, and it causes the earth to get much hotter. See, they talk about global warming. They're creating it. And in the very day that this big blob's off of Africa going through the Sahara, you got hundreds of miles to the peripheral of this hot spot. You've got this precipitation and this flooding and raining in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, and they had the worst floods they've ever had in history. We know they caused it, but they don't, they don't really talk about that. They just say, oh, there's global warming. In other words, the lie is that the earth is having some terrible heat problems and we're all going to die because the earth just decided that it's going to warm up right about the time that Jesus is about to come back, right? So they got to throw 3 missiles up into the air to attack the sun, name them Satan, is having a battle with the sun or the light of the sun, and open the bottomless pit on April the 8th at the beginning of the new year, of the Jewish New Year. And all of this is some kind of symbolism, just like when they flash the pyramids or the upside down crosses, and we ignorant fools are looking at this and going, what are they doing? I don't know. Some kind of a cult that the world's elite is into, But nobody realizes that they're all worshiping some crazy evil Satan or some plot that only they're privy to. And most people can't imagine how the secret could be kept hidden from the world. And I say, well, number one, it's not a secret. We all know about it, but we all pretend we don't believe in it. Like, well, it can't be true, but well, maybe they get us talking about preterism, or they get us talking about aliens from Draco, the planet Draco or something, and galactic federations that, theories, and I don't know, to get our minds away from the fact that these people are doing this. They're flashing these symbols. The question is why? How have they managed to have this little clique amongst the elite, and the peasants aren't up in arms? And the answer is very simple. This is why they have Mormons and Masons and Jehovah's Witnesses and all these cults. In order to join these cults, you have to make a vow, a covenant. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses, when you join or get baptized, that's how you become a member. You are taken off to a little room, and they ask you a bunch of questions, and they ask you if you agree, or if you know that if you get baptized, you can never quit, and if you do, you'll be disfellowshipped. You don't ever get to speak to your family again. And they don't always say it, but you basically you realize that not only can you not speak with your mother and father and your brothers and your relatives, your friends, but you won't have this moving up in position and becoming CEO, where, it's not like they can stop you from flipping burgers down at McDonald's, but you're never going to get that great job. And I know it sounds crazy, and most of you people wouldn't believe me if I told you, but when Jehovah's Witnesses don't do what they're told and they get disfellowship, they lose their wives and children. Literally. It's just like the world. Like, when people get divorced, they go to court and they try to take the kids from the other party or whatever. And the one who wins is the one who's got the friends. If you're somebody who has no contacts, you have nobody who can speak up for you, nobody to come to the courtroom with you and say, hey, we're a big organization and we're with this guy, and like, oh, you're Jehovah's Witness, well, then we'll just side with you. So if you're the party that is a Jehovah's Witness, if you're the lady or the guy in this divorce that continues to be a witness, you will get the kids, and they will make it so that you never see your kids. So it's bad, but it's much worse with Mormons, because when you become a Mormon, you make a covenant. Not just that you'll be disfellowshipped, but if you ever leave their organization, you agree that you will die. You'll be disemboweled or whatever. It's a a serious covenant. You know and you agree that you could be killed. And what people don't understand is that the reason nobody ever talks about these things is once they get high enough to where they know these secrets, they know they can never reveal it or else they will die. And so some of them actually have the balls to actually try to go out and reveal it, but they end up dying. And we hear about these people that just disappear. And we're like, well, they disappeared. They committed, like Vince Foster committed suicide, just before the trial that was about to convict Bill Clinton or whatever, But, so this is going on. This is crazy. And the peasants are being told that there is a solar flare that is happening right now. I guess, I don't know why people don't think about if this is real, if this is not a hoax, why hasn't the grid gone down 100 years ago? I mean, one thing they tell you is that, well, we have technology now, and this is why it's important for us, and it never happened before because they didn't have technology and electricity. But think about it. We've had electricity for how many, like 100 and some years? I don't know how many. When did, way over 100 years we've had. Because I was looking into what their explanation of why the grid could go down because of the solar flares on the sun. Like, why would this happen? And their explanation is that the electric lines, that the wires are like hundreds of miles long, and it's like an antenna, and it builds up all this electromagnetism, and it'll blow out transformers. And that makes some sense. But if that's true, that a long wire is building up this charge because of this solar flare and blowing transformers, why didn't it happen before now? I mean, yeah, we've seen transformers blow, but they were usually just old ones, or maybe some power surge because of a lightning. I get that. Lightning strikes a transformer, or there's a fire, that happens. But I've never heard, or at least, I don't know if I've heard of it in the last 20 years that we had a grid go down somewhere because of solar flares. I've heard talk about it, but I've never seen in my community anywhere and I have no memory of somebody saying, oh yeah, all the electrical grid in New York went out because of a solar flare. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but if they said that, it couldn't have been too serious because it must have just been, I'm pretty sure that every time that's ever happened, it's been lightning or something. But even if it, like I said, even if it has happened somewhere, we don't know if it really happened because they're just telling us it happened. They could have flipped a switch. Tucker Carlson's saying they're going to just pull the plug. And they're also saying maybe Russia's going to do it with a nuclear weapon in the sky. So we don't know why the grid would go down. If it does go down, we don't know why. They could tell us that there's this invisible power called radio electromagnetism that builds up in the power lines, and literally everything goes down. Of course, I did hear, which I never heard before, but I was reading today, and they did say that if that happens, it won't affect the phones. Interesting. I guess they want the phones to stay on because they could have come up with a story saying, oh yeah, we'll take out all the cell phones too. Right? So I hadn't really looked into it like deep to see their explanation, but I'd always wondered, we've had long electric lines, telephone lines, electric poles, hundreds of miles of electric lines for 100 years. And New York's never gone out because of it. Right? So this means that whatever this thing is with these solar flares that's going on right now, that they claim is going on, it's never happened before in over 150 years. Except for, oh yeah, they got a story about how back in 1827, it knocked out the telegraph line. I don't even have a way to judge these stories, since all their other stories are lies, like we went to the moon. And, they're showing us pictures of the sun and these solar flares. Do you know how far it is to the sun, according to them? Actually, you can see on the screen, there's a picture of it. So we've got a camera that can zoom 93 million miles into space and zoom in to this sun. And we can see all these billowing lights and flurries of flashes of fire, right? We don't even know if the sun is on fire. I mean, a light bulb is very bright, but it's not on fire. It's a different kind of, it's a vibrating energy that's very, very, a bright white light like the sun. As far as I'm concerned, it's very unlikely that it's just a big ball of fire. I mean, we take these people at their word when they say, oh yeah, we've got these cameras, but we've never seen the camera. We've never used one of these cameras. I know there are people who have telescopes, but I've never seen a picture that some guy in his basement took with his telescope. I personally believe, and I am absolutely certain, that every one of these pictures that you see of the sun and all these solar flares is CGI. Just like when they show you pictures of novas out in space and they're all brilliant colors and pinks and blues and reds and all this, and it's impossible. Because when you look in the sky with your eye, you see a white star, and all the stars are white. Because whatever these things are, these stars, they don't have colors, except for there's the red shift, blue shift. I mean, some of the stars twinkle, and you think, I think it's a little bluer than that other one, and like a little twinkle that kind of, you imagine it's a little lighter, a little more bluish, or some that are a little more reddish, but basically they're all white, right? And we can see with our own eyes these stars, but they're not colors. And if you had a camera that shot into the space and could focus on Orion, the nebula of Orion, which is, I don't know how many, 1,000 light years away or something, it wouldn't be in color. They're lying. And here's the thing. They will admit, if you look at the fine print, that these are CGI, that they're paintings. And we know that, but we're all looking at this, and oh, look how beautiful the stars are, so beautiful, they're all these colors, and oh, look at this planet, and they show planets now where there's this big pool of water. I just saw this one. There's this big, they found an ocean on some planet. Give me a break. It is literally a painting. It is not a real picture. I am convinced that there is no technology in this world to take pictures of planets and other solar systems. And I am convinced that you cannot take pictures of the moons of Saturn or Jupiter either. It is a hoax, friends. It is a hoax. And we're not seeing pictures of solar flares on the sun. And we don't even know if they exist. Why would the universe be so violent? We have no idea if the sun is blowing off nuclear explosions and all of this is going on. The sun could be as pure white light as the brightest white bulb that you've ever seen. That, obviously it's pretty bright. You look into it and it blinds you. Have you ever looked into fire and it had blinded your eyes? If the sun was fire like they're showing you, it wouldn't be blinding your eyes, especially not traveling through 93 million miles of darkness. I'm not saying there isn't such a thing as radiation. Radiation is just another word for heat. Radiation doesn't do anything to you other than burn you. And they got all this fear and, nuclear and burning and radiating and all this is going to kill us all. And nuclear radiation, we have no proof, nothing that says that you could blow up a nuclear explosion and the the elements in the dirt would be radioactive for 1,000 years. In fact, we know that's not true, because Chernobyl, there's people living over there. And that was only a few years ago. Or in Japan, Nagasaki and stuff. There's people living in that area. There's grass growing and trees growing and birds flying. They're lying to us. Friends, if there was something, radiation or something, hitting the earth that could burn the grid and knock the grid out, it would burn your skin. It would, I mean, we already know you go outside, and if you stay in the sun too long, you can burn your skin. But that's just because it's hot, right? You've seen somebody using a magnifying glass, and he puts it in the, in front of the sun, and it shines down in a little beam, and it focuses the light, and it can burn. So that's what radiation is. It's burning, and you can get burned. But the earth has an ozone layer. The only way you could focus the sun anywhere to make it burn is if it was somehow what nature does when it does lightning. Lightning can and it start fires. So we know that, but it doesn't ruin the earth. It's a natural thing, and it starts a fire, and there's a forest fire, and some trees need forest fires to grow, like pine trees. Certain kinds of trees, they won't even grow until after there's been a forest fire. It's part of nature. But it isn't some tragedy. If the earth has solar flares hitting it that could wipe out the grid, then it would have happened over the last 150 years, many times before. These cycles of the sun happen every 11 years or something. And if there's these larger cycles that come every 1,000 years, something like that, okay, great. But it's just so coinkydingle that all this is happening right now when Jesus is about to come back. It's all a hoax. Satan has come down to you, friends, knowing he has but a short time. And he's come to deceive the entire world. He wants you to believe that these little guys on the television infiltrating my channel and the other channels and claiming that there's a galactic federation, and they're talking to them, and Elena Danan's married to Thor, who's sitting on the council of the Galactic Federation. It seems like they all are in on this. The White Brotherhood is out there in their Galactic Federation. Why are they white? And why is it the Draco constellation's running the show, right? Really? Do you think the devil decided to go and live on this Draco constellation because somebody named it Draco in the last 20 years or whatever? I don't know, in the last 100 years. All this is insanity. Who named this asteroid that's coming through Apophis? It's probably been named that in the last 50 years. I don't know. I didn't look it up. And NASA just discovered this thing. They decided to name it, and they're like, okay, let's name it the devil. Right? All of it's a hoax, friends. There's no such thing as solar flares. Y2K did not destroy the world. The world didn't end in 2012 because of the Mayan calendar. But what is going to happen, and this is what they're trying to take your attention away from, Jesus is coming back. And I just heard that they just passed this thing in Congress, this anti-Semitism thing. And so you're not supposed to say anything bad about, Semites. Let's put it that way. And if you do, I guess it's pretty serious. I don't know. This is just what I'm hearing. But somebody was saying that this probably bans the Bible because the entire New Testament says that in very clear words that the Judean people did murder the Lord Jesus, and they are against all men. And I won't say any more here, but there's lots of verses that talk about this kind of thing. A brood of vipers, Jesus said, and so forth. So we're not going to be allowed to say that. And They're going to go back and find all the videos where I've been saying things, quoting scriptures. And they're going to take these videos down. Or maybe they'll try to anyway. I don't know if the Lord will let them. But they're going to use this. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything to those who stand up and speak the word. I don't think they can stop us. They tried to stop Peter from speaking the word and preaching about Christ. And they put him in jail, but the prison just opened up. They had no authority over Peter. They had no power over Jesus until Jesus was ready to become a witness. We don't realize what that means when they would die on a cross, or they would die because they let it happen. Both Paul and Peter talk about leaving the tabernacle and putting off this tabernacle. They did it willingly when their job on earth was done, because they wanted to go be with Christ, which is better. Paul said it's far better to go be with Christ, but he wanted to stay long enough to make sure that he had the gospel up to Rome. And then he wanted to go back to Jerusalem. But they became witnesses because they wanted to testify to the world that death is not the end. And the only reason that this world is here and these evil people are lying and doing all the things they're doing is because they don't have any real power. It's an illusion. We just need to laugh at them and say, ha, 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 you idiots, stop. We don't believe you anymore. The devil comes down to do what? To murder us all? No. He comes down to deceive the entire world. The only way you can die is if you make that covenant. If you reject the covenant of love and forgiveness, but you instead take the mark of the beast, which is this idea of justice. If you won't forgive others, then you can't be forgiven. If you want justice, then you're following the deity of vengeance. And if you follow the deity of vengeance and you believe in justice and you insist upon justice and you believe that the world's coming to an end because of a solar flare or because, aliens are coming, you're being deceived. Well, Dave, I thought you believed that the world was coming. Yeah, the age will come to the end of its cycle at the appointed time that the Lord Jesus has decided that we have come to the end of the age and the harvest of the world, and the angels are the reapers. When the devil has come down at the appointed time to deceive the whole world simply because we let him deceive us. We have free will. We don't have to believe. My favorite scripture now, basically, I have lots of them, but one of my favorite scriptures now is Psalms 23. We always quote it, Lord's my shepherd, I shall not lack. Well, wait a minute. If I shall not lack, or I shall not want, in grassy pastures he makes me lie down, by well-watered resting places he prepares a banquet for us in the wilderness. And what? The plague will not come nigh unto me? What plague? What is this period of time? Like in Psalms 92, and where the buildings fall on our left hand and thousands at our right, and it not come nigh unto us. The plague shall not come to us. And all that. What is this talking about? The plague is what the Apostle Paul said was the strong delusion. And if we don't receive the love of the truth that we might be saved, which means delivered from this wrath of the law, this justice, if we simply receive his grace and give others our grace and love, and we don't believe, there is no fear in love, then nothing can happen to us. Yes, the world will end, but only because of the brightness of his coming, because of his love, because of his grace. He's coming to dispel all the evil and darkness. That's all. Now, they may not want to receive the love of the truth, that they might be delivered from this wrath. But the only reason they're going to get this wrath is because they've made it up. And all the people who believe in it and are afraid are going to die in some convulsive judgment. And it's the judgment of the adversary who accuses the brethren day and night before my Father's throne. But you are not guilty. And our Heavenly Father is not partial. In other words, he loves everybody equally. And even false prophets, he loves them. But he cannot go against their own wishes. And if they at this time are not mature enough to let go of their fears and their fear-mongering and their hate, then the very hate that they are insisting must come upon the world will come upon them, because they won't just receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. Friends, the world is coming to an end, but not that way. The world's coming to an end because this classroom no longer is tailored to help us. But the world has come to a place where the evil has reached unto the heavens. The liars have become so full of lies that it's hard to find any truth. The sun's going to go out, and the moon will not give her light, and the stars will fall from heaven, because, you see, they don't see the light anymore. There's sun shining. The love is shining. Grace is here, but nobody wants it. They want justice. And so they're going to get justice. But for those who are waiting for the Lord Jesus and have received his love, not one hair of your head shall be harmed. For those who endure unto the end, we who remain until the end shall simply be changed in a twinkling of an eye, and will meet them in the air, and we will always be with the Lord. And the only reason we're going to be changed is because this world is in a fallen state. It's full of lies. It's full of fear and judgment and hate, because the deity of this world is the deity whose name is jealous or hate. And that is his name. And he wants vengeance. And he's just an illusion, but we all believe in it. Jesus said, "Oh, how I would have gathered you as a hen would gather her chickens, but you would not. So your house is left unto you desolate." Not because he wants to murder anybody. Jesus doesn't want to hurt anyone. He's not going to. He's not going to hurt nobody. And the society and the Gestapo cannot hurt us. They cannot come to your door and hurt you. If they take you to jail, if you have faith and you know that they have no authority or power, then the bars of the gates will just open, whoop, and you'll walk free until you're ready, after you've given your testimony, to leave this evil, wicked world behind and go be with those who are living in paradise. Just be changed in a moment. Walk right through that portal into the loving world beyond. But you see, I'm not ready to go quite yet, because there are certain ones of us that have been predestined to be witnesses and testifiers to the world, to preach this gospel. And when the gospel is preached to everybody on earth, when everybody gets here in the latter days, and we're all here before the judgment seat of Christ, and the two witnesses prophesy and the two false prophets prophesy, and the battle commences, truth and error battle, and the light will win, and those who want the light will go into the light, and those who can't stand the light but shrink at its presence and want to go into the caves of the rocks and want the mountains to fall upon them, they'll get what they're asking for, until every knee shall bend and every eye will see. But some will not confess his name. They will not see him until they confess his name, and they won't confess his name until he comes to do away with this evil, wicked system. When everybody's here, and we've gone through the classroom, and the day of judgment has arrived, and these fearmongers get what's coming to them. I'm going to go ahead and go. I'm David Vose. I hope you have a wonderful evening. May the Lord bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.